my son mentioned that he wanted to unalive himself.
Hey, I'm Dr. Julie, and I'm a board certified psychiatrist. And I watched your video, and I know that your call to action was for men to come and be positive and affirming to your son, just regarding how he wants to express himself and his individuality. And I wanted to come on, though, just to give some information to other people who might get a similar report about some things that they can be sure to do. I saw in your video you already mentioned connect to him to a therapist, but some other things that people can do to ensure safety when they have those kind of reports from one of their children or adolescents. So the first thing you want to do is limit access to lethal means in your house. So that could be potentially number one, if you have access to a weapon or a firearm, definitely secure those. If it's a combination safe, be sure that the combination is not easily guessed. If you're using a key for a safe, be sure that the child does not have access to the key. I know this seems basic, but we see accidents happen all the time. You know, if you don't have access to either of those, a trigger lock, if you don't have access to that, separate ammunition from the weapon, and then securing the weapon and the ammunition in a place where the child does not have access or easy access to that would be some possible alternatives. You want to limit access to all medications, supplements, even things that are available over the counter. Medications like Tylenol and aspirin can be particularly deadly when they're taken in overdose. If you do not have access to a medication safe, what I have in my house is like a tackle box, you know, that you would put tools in that you can put a lock on to lock it. That's what we use. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can use something like that to put your medicines in to secure those. You might want to think about securing knives or other sharp objects, you know, depending on the nature of the situation. If you have ropes or anything that could be used for hanging, you know, securing those. So when there is a lot of risk factors, you know, depending on the nature of the situation, you want to be sure that you secure any access to lethal means the way a person may harm themselves. You want to be sure that your child has some degree of a safety plan of things they can do maybe when you're not around or their safe person isn't around if they get these thoughts and they start to be overwhelmed by them. So you may just on a sheet of paper jot down what kind of things can you do on your own if I'm not here or your safe person isn't here, and you get these thoughts and you start to be overwhelmed. What can you do on your own? What can you do to distract yourself? You know, are there any hotlines that they can call, you know, that would be appropriate for them, you know, depending on their age that they can call to get support from if you're not around? You know, what if it really is an emergency, you know, do they have the capability of calling 911, you know, in the case that they really may have very strong impulsive thoughts to hurt themselves, that they would know what to do if you weren't around. So I hope that that's helpful for anyone that is navigating if their child is also dealing with thoughts to harm themselves.